Hello, guys, and welcome to the first edition of this podcast. I'm in the studio today with my colleagues and dearest friends, Nicole, Valeria, and Angela. Welcome. Thanks for being here with me today.
Thanks for inviting us.
It is a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Well, let's start. In today's segment, we're going to talk about neuroscience and language. We'll try to analyze and explain to our audience, which are students of foreign languages like us, to recognize the brain areas involved in the cognitive functions that allow us to comprehend and produce language. So, if we all agree, we'll start by defining language, which is going to be one of the most important concepts throughout all of our course. So, what is language? Language in this case is the most important form of communication used by human beings. It is a complex and dynamic system of signs and can be expressed either orally or in writing.
Okay, but what makes us special, or how are we able to produce it? I would say that's a quite interesting question.
Well, it's because we have specific areas of the brain that are involved in the language process, right?
Exactly. And it is important to remember that language doesn't depend only on one spot of the brain. It actually works thanks to the coordinated action of several cortical and subcortical areas, mostly located in the left hemisphere for right-handed people. However, the three main areas of the brain that are involved in the language process are
the Broca's area, which is located in the frontal lobe, and it is important because it is in charge of the language production, and Wernicke's area, which is located in the temporal lobe of the brain, and this area is in charge of language comprehension.
And last but not least, we have the arcuate fasciculus. This area of the brain is crucial because it is charged of connecting both the Broca's area with the Wernicke's area.
Right, but the brain doesn't work in isolation. There are also neurocognitive functions that make language possible.
That's true. Functions like memory, attention, and perception help us process information, focus in conversation, and recognize sounds and words.
These cognitive skills are not specific to language. They help us to think and learn every day, and they are also the base that allow us to produce and understand language.
For example, memory helps us recall words and ideas. Attention lets us concentrate on what someone is saying, and perception allows us to recognize speech, sounds, and meaning.
So, you could say cognitive functions are like the support system of the brain. They make language processing more efficient.
That is pretty interesting, actually.
I know, right? So now that we understand the general cognitive skills that support thinking, let's look at how the brain uses them for language, especially in production and comprehension.
Okay, in first place, language production is about creating meaningful speech or writing. It involves choosing words, structuring sentences, and coordinating vocal movements. Broca's area plays a key role here.
For example, when we tell a story, we need to organize ideas, remember events, and speak clearly, all at the same time.
On the other hand, language comprehension is about understanding what we hear or read. Wernicke's area is essential for this process.
Comprehension also depends on context, tone, and memory. For instance, understanding a conversation requires noticing how words are said, not just what is said.
So, now that we understand how the brain supports language through production and comprehension, it's interesting to see how the abilities began in early life. Even before children can speak, they go through stages of preverbal communication.
That is right. Studying these stages help us understand how babies develop the cognitive and social skills they need to produce and understand language later on.
Exactly, and researchers like Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky have described how infants gradually move from simple interactions to using their first words.
It is totally incredible how much happens before those adorable first words. So let's start from the very beginning, the moment babies are born.
Right. At birth, babies express themselves mainly through crying and reflex sounds. These are not words, but they are cries that respond to basic needs like hunger or discomfort.
Then comes the lulling stage, which happens around 2 to 6 months when babies start making those soothing sounds like ooh and ah. It's their way of connecting with their surroundings and anyone listening.
Exactly. And then, around 6 to 12 months, babies enter the babbling phase. They start producing simple syllables like pa, ma, and ne that are found in virtually all languages. It's like their very own practice for speech.
At this point, babies also start to understand simple expressions, even if they don't talk intentionally yet.
Moving on, from 12 to 18 months, babies usually emit their first words, usually naming people or objects they recognize. Sometimes those words are hold-up phrases, a single word that can mean a whole sentence or even a thought.
Then, between 18 and 24 months, there's what is called the language explosion. Babies rapidly increase their vocabulary, sometimes learning a new word every couple of hours. They also start putting two words together in what's known as telegraphic speech.
From ages 2 to 3, kids develop in syntax more fully, adding important little words like in, on, or the, and start constructing longer sentences.
Then, ages 3 to 4 is when kids really nail the full morphosyntax using complex sentences, including things like relative clauses and verb phrases. Their understanding and speaking skills get way better.
And between 4 and about 10 to 12 years old, their language skills continue to become refined. They grasp metaphors, irony, and get skilled at pronouncing those tricky sounds adults have to teach them.
It's amazing how this entire process maps the child's biological and cognitive growth as well as the social interaction that helps language blossom.
Well, that wraps up today's chat about the proverbial stages of communication. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you.